Hello, 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 welcome. Let's make sure you guys know I'm on here. All right, we are back. Girl Talk Live, week number 2. Tonight we are talking about modern marriage. Whoop, whoop. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Modern Marriage, Chapter 2 in our book, Modern Marriage. Welcome. Hey, Natasha. Hey, Kim. Hey, Angela. Hola. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, Girl Talk Live, Chapter 2 tonight. Modern Marriage. Modern marriage is the topic for tonight. We had a really great conversation last week. Thank you, Nikki. We had a really great conversation last week. It was fun. The hour went by so fast. I think we were ready to go over our hour last week because we were having such a great, candid, and real conversation around the fairy tale and dating and men. And I'm sure tonight we're going to have a fabulous time as well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So modern marriage, we're talking about marriage tonight. We're talking about marriage tonight. Welcome. I'm going to give just a couple minutes for some gals to join us. Got an eyelash in my eye. And we are going to get started here in just a couple minutes. Welcome. Rashida says hello. We are here making this a girls' night. Hey, Rashida. Girls' night in on Girl Talk Live. All right, woo woo. You guys are probably sipping on something. It can't be girls' night without sipping on something. Something on Kool-Aid. Y'all sipping on Kool-Aid. Yeah. All right, so we're going to get started. More ladies will join us as we get going. But tonight we are talking about modern marriage. So we are talking about marriage tonight. And I wanted to start out by reading you just a few sentences in the first chapter of the book, in the second chapter, the first paragraph of the book, Modern Marriage, the second chapter, Love and Dating in the 21st Century. Thank you, Nicole. If you haven't gotten the book, there's a link up above to get an autographed copy from me as well. You can grab your copy. But I'm going to begin by reading just the first paragraph out of this book, so that we can begin to kind of set the tone for how I wrote this chapter and what this chapter is all about. So, modern marriage. Marrying for love is a fairly modern concept. It is only within the last 250 years that the concept of a love match, or even marrying based on attraction, has become prevalent. Historically, fathers married their daughters off for the purposes of wealth, power, and alliances. Even poor people had hopes of marrying their daughters to less impoverished suitors for the good of the overall family. Girls, we were traded like property. More recently, in the last 50 years, we are not only marrying for love and attraction, but we have also evolved to seeing marriage as a partnership, with most people now believing marriage is based on love, mutual sexual attraction, equality, and a flexible division of labor. I'm going to read that quote one more time. Most people have a perspective on marriage that has evolved to seeing marriage as a partnership, with most people now believing marriage is based on love, mutual sexual attraction, equality, and a flexible division of labor. The choices and freedoms in dating and marriage we now take for granted were fought hard for and have only come about in very modern times. These changes are at the core of why dating, connecting, and marriage has become so difficult. The rules and roles have changed, but why have they changed? How did marriage, and therefore dating, evolve into a spirit of love and partnership? And how do these changes affect how we must adapt today? Let's put this in perspective by examining the history of how marriage has evolved. Okay, so you want to make sure you get the book and finish reading this whole chapter, because I really go into the history of marriage. And the reason I went into the history of marriage to begin a chapter on modern marriage is that we have to understand the reality of marriage and where we've come from in order to understand it today, and also understand it gives us a lot of insight into why things have now become so difficult in relationships and in marriage. Because when you look at the history of marriage, it looks nothing like what it is today. So I wanted to start off by initiating the conversation tonight around marriage, around the fact that the misconception about marriage that I found very interesting as I did my research for this book was that how many of you can say tonight that there's been people in your family, people in your life who have been married very long term? I'm talking about your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, that have a history of, long-term marriages, that you've held certain marriages and relationships as an example. How many of you can own that you've put these marriages as examples of saying, see, grandma and grandpa were married for 50 years, right? Or that your parents stayed married for 40 plus years, or that, you've got people in your family, aunts, uncles, you've got some examples that you've looked at and kind of are comparing your experiences, or comparing what you would like to have with those examples. How many ladies can own that tonight? Does that resonate with you guys? I know it did for me. That I can honestly say that I come from a family of very long-term marriages, this is my mother's generation, my mother's brothers and sisters, even right now, those that are still living, married 40, 50 years. My parents were married 42 years. My grandparents were together until they passed off the earth. There were these examples that were kind of set. And even if it's not right inside of your family, because Nicole says, I don't have any of those examples. Nicole, have you met older couples through church or through, different scenarios or situations in life? Have you met or come across those couples that you kind of look at and you say goals, right? These are relationship goals. These are marriage goals that you look at these people and you think, that's how I want my marriage to be. That's how I want to eventually be able to be married very long term and be happily married like these people. And honestly, one of the things that really came out of my research that I did for this chapter of the book, ladies, is that there's not really a lot of people, especially from that time and those generations, that were truly, truly happily married. And that's one of the things I want to kind of start off with tonight, because we have a tendency to put people on a pedestal or set examples. However, those examples are kind of false. They're not real. I really want to make that clear tonight, that your grandmother and grandfather were probably not as happy as you thought. There you go. Angela says, my grandparents were married for years, but I didn't see them as an example. They didn't show love. Okay. Because the further you go back in time, the more you go back, the more you would have to come to the realization that the majority of marriages were not necessarily marriages of love, ladies. These were marriages of convenience. These are marriages of survival. These are marriages of, you come from the wrong side of the tracks. He's from a good family. You're making that's a good suit or a good choice for your family. As a woman in these days, you were securing your financial well-being with marriage. You were securing a good future by marrying a good man who was going to work hard and provide for you and your children. And that would have been considered a good match. Now, if you compare that to where it is now, that's right, Nicole, obligation. family obligation, financial obligation, religious obligations. There's all kinds of motivations for why people got married, but it's only in really, really modern times that people have really evolved to strictly getting married for love. That we're talking about soulmates, and we're talking about compatibility, and we're talking about, marrying the love of your life and sexual attraction. And right, exactly, Nika. Women who never knew independence. Exactly. Sounds like a business deal. Exactly, Melinda. Nail on the head. You're hitting the nail on the head. Much of, marriage before modern time more resembled business deals, contracts. It was just, your parents would have been saying he's a wise choice. You see movies where the daughter is kind of bucking and fighting because she doesn't want to marry that older gentleman that her dad is trying to get her to marry for the security of the family. Right? And we don't even want to go into American history for us as Blacks and slavery, and then the fact that we couldn't marry or keep our marriages and relationships together, that we were not able to choose. We weren't even able to own property or anything. So literally, the history of marriage is not pretty. It's not lovey-dovey. It's not fairy tale, just like the first chapter. That's why the first chapter of the book is called The Fairy Tale, right? Because Patrice says, I feel like my parents got married based on obligation. I never really saw them. I never saw them show love. So one of the things that I want to make clear about modern marriage is I'm going to say something, girls, and I really want you to hear me. I believe that you should only be getting married if you absolutely fall in love with someone. This is a privilege. It is something that our mothers, grandmothers, great-grandmothers, they didn't have this privilege. They did not have the leniency, the leeway to be able to marry for love. That's right. Sandy says, I never saw my parents show love to each other, not even to myself or my sisters. Right. People got married for all different types of reasons, but it wasn't love. But in modern marriage, now, where we are at, you literally have the opportunity to marry whoever you want, as long as it's mutual and he's wanting to marry you. But in modern times, one of the things that's changed so much and has changed all of this is money, finances. Many of you are going to have to prepare yourself mentally for the fact that you're probably going to marry someone and you actually will probably make more money than him. I mean, in 2018, fourth quarter, headed into 2019, ladies, we are beginning to run circles around men. I go into this a lot more later in the book, but one of the real stark realities is that you could easily fall in love with someone who's not making as much money as you. Because we as women are really, we are taking huge strides financially, and especially in education and starting businesses, that literally the men can't keep up with us. We are running circles around men. And the number one thing that has changed marriage is money. Because we used to have to depend on them. Because we used to have to, make sure we were marrying for security. Think about what's been ingrained in us. It's been ingrained in us that the man is the provider and the protector. Provider. Where did we learn that from? Right? We learned that from the Bible. We learned that from our mothers. But our mothers didn't date. Our mothers didn't live in these modern times. That's why people right now who have been married 15, 20 years, 15, 13 years, and now come out here into 2018, the 21st century, they're like, what is going on out here? I don't even know how to navigate all of this because the times have changed so much that even as women, you know, the perspective on providing as men, the perspective, you know, on gender roles, where is the balance in all of this? The traditional gender roles, the traditional standards around marriage and courting and all of that. Where's it at? It's definitely not the norm. It's definitely that things are not fitting our traditions and how we expect. And here's one thing I want to point out tonight before we really get into some deeper discussion. What I think is very interesting is how much everything's changed, okay? Male and female roles have changed. Everything's changed. But yet, we want this one thing to stay the same. We want dating, relationships, marriage, men. We want all of this to stay the same, yet everything else has changed. And because it seems like for us, this is how it's always been. This is what we know. Just 1 or 2 generations ago, this would have just been crazy to them. Would have been absolutely nuts what we're dealing with. But at the end of the day, everything's changed. The reason you would look at a man as a provider is because if you had any money, you may have been working as a secretary. You may have been doing Tupperware on the side, or you may have been, I mean, there were roles that women had that were traditional jobs for women. I'm talking about in the 70s. Before we started taking over the office, before we started moving into management, before we started getting doctorate degrees. I mean, this stuff is fairly modern, ladies. And so modern marriage is brand new. All of this is new. Everyone's trying to figure this out. Sandy says, yes, that's why I had to get divorced. My ex-husband got very insecure because I was making so much more money. Because Sandy, how old are you, Sandy? Because I bet you fall right here in the cracks because you're still coming from a generation that was more traditional and not having haven't adapted, because these younger guys and younger women are way more adapted to this. They expect partnership. They expect, a lot of these men are not going to have any problem with you making more money as a woman. They're not. We may think they do. Sandy says, I'm 55. Sandy, you and I, we're right on this cusp. I'm 43, but we're on this cusp because we still approach things very traditional. And I had to learn as a matchmaker and a dating coach, I had to evolve because my approach even to matching and dating and coaching was still very traditional. And then I began to realize, like, wait a minute, the way I'm talking about doing things, this isn't going to work in the 21st century. Because we're not dealing with traditional men anymore. We're not dealing with traditional women anymore. All the rules have changed. The entire landscape has changed, ladies. So let's talk about being independent. Someone says, Nicola says, some women too independent just need the title. Here's the thing. Like 74% of women work outside of the home, even when they're married. Like 74% of women work outside of the home, which means by definition, nearly 3/4 of marriages, the man is not the sole provider. If the man's not the sole provider, then he's not, a lot of the traditional perspectives and standards that we have around the roles of women and men traditionally begin to kind of go out the window. Because if a woman is working just as many hours as a man outside of the house, come on, you know where I'm going with this, gals. If we're out here working just as hard as them, and then we're coming home, but we're going to try to stay traditional to where we're taking care of the kids, homework, cooking dinner, keeping the house clean, washing the clothes. wait a minute. That begins to fall apart really quickly. Because how as a woman are we going to hold down all of that and we're working just as hard outside of the home as he is? That's not fair. But yet, so many women will try to be killing themselves. Markeisha says, nah, I'll pass. Thank you. That is where most women in 2018 have gotten to when it comes to marriage, which is why marriages have become more like partnerships, because women are saying, wait a minute, you're not taking care of me. You're not paying all the bills to where I'm just staying home, taking care of the kids, cleaning, cooking, holding everything down at home, and you're paying all the bills so I don't have to worry about all that. I can just be a wife and a mother. 75% of marriages, that's not the case. Nicola says that nowadays it's about partnership and support. Exactly. Nicole says, I'm still trying to adapt to the culture for marriage. That's why in my 20s, I didn't pursue a career. I wanted a family. Now that I'm in my 30s, I realized that I had to work because I still never got approached for marriage. Exactly. Latasha, I wrote this in my book. Men want to be modern as far as working in finances because we can share all the finances, but want traditional at home because you want her to be doing all the cooking and cleaning and all of that. Not how it's going to work. I think what has happened in our modern times, ladies, is we as women are saying, no thanks. I don't want it's not even logical. It's not logical that we want to put a big S on our chest and sign up to try to be superwoman to where you're going to pop some babies out, be working 9 to 5 at some demanding career because you got goals too, and working on degrees and cooking and cleaning. It's too much. But I see so many Christian women trying to still abide by this traditional, antiquated definition of what it is to be successful as a wife, what it is to be a good wife, what it is to be marriage material. And if we're honest, okay, let's get honest for a second. What a lot of women do, even in the dating phase, is they start trying to prove to him that I'm good wife material by doing a lot of wifely things, cooking, cleaning, sexing, all this stuff. You're trying to prove to him that you're worthy of marriage. So you're setting yourself up because when you get married, you've now set the standard that you expect to be traditional. And I hear from men where they get frustrated. Where they get frustrated is, you did all this to get me, but now we got married and you ain't trying to do all that no more. You feeling some type of way. Kim says the whole virtuous woman mindset. Exactly. Then after all that, he'll go out and have an affair. Oh my God, Sandy. Okay, I'm not going there yet. Nicole says, so where is the happy medium? Here's the happy medium. It is so crucial that you begin to set standards and requirements when you're dating. When you're dating, prior to getting married, he needs to understand what you're wanting, what's required. This is why premarital counseling is so crucial, and with the right people, because you don't, I realized not too long ago that some of the most traditional marriage advice that I would be getting from people who have been married for a long time did not apply to me. It did not apply to me. I'm running like 3 businesses. If you're looking to me to be the maid, the cook, and all, honey, I'll go hire somebody. I'm going to pay somebody to come in and clean the house, have some food delivery service, because I'm running companies, right? My earning potential is huge. I have more to contribute to the world than just cleaning house and washing clothes. I'm being real with y'all. You know that I'm being real. I have books to write. I have conferences to do. I got TV shows to make. Sandy says you have to be crystal clear what you want and don't be afraid to speak up. Exactly. So modern marriage, and no, do the men say that it takes all that? Nope. Nichelle, let me tell you something. It doesn't even take doing all that to get a man. When a man is crazy about you and loves you, you can be very clear about what shared responsibilities you want to have. It's about equitable division of labor. Carrie and I had conversations before we ever got married. And the conversations were centered around, well, I don't mind doing this and he doesn't mind doing that. Okay, you'll handle bathtubs and toilets. I'll handle, cooking a couple times a week. We'll eat out the rest of the time. We literally mapped out a fair distribution of responsibilities within our relationship, within our partnership. You're good with money. You like to handle the money. You want to pay the bills. Cool. You pay the bills. Right? Markeisha says, then some men have a problem with you hiring someone for those things. Carrie Pope, when he was trying to get me to do more stuff around the house, this is in some of the most demanding times when I'm writing books and projects, he would say, oh, you need to do this, you're not doing that, because he'd start complaining, because I would start slacking, because it's during seasons and times of high demand when I'm working on a project. And I'm like, I'm about to call the cleaning lady. Man, that would shut him up so quick, because he didn't want me, Carrie's frugal, so he didn't want me paying money for a cleaning lady, so he would just step up and help out more. When he's busy, I step up and help more too. It's a give and take. Nicola says, I think today men want some of both traditional and modern. And Nicola, they do, and so do women. So let me tell you about us. We want men to be traditional when it comes to money, right? We want them to provide, we want that money. But then when it comes to us saying we want to have to cook and clean and do everything at home, we're like, oh, hold up, partner. I'm an independent woman, right? And really what it boils down to is that both sides are going to have to compromise. Because nowadays you have men who love to cook. There's men who are practically chefs. They love to cook. Well, if he loves to cook and he's great at cooking, why should the woman be doing the cooking just because she's the woman when he loves to cook and he's great at it? A partnership is about looking at and seeing who has what gifts, skills, and talents and passions and interests you have, and together you figure out who's best suited to do what in the partnership. That's modern marriage. If you can get with a great partner that's willing to work with you and willing to pick up the slack, right? You guys can run this race together and do great things because you're helping each other. You're working together. It's not inequitable. It's an equal division of labor and responsibilities. Together now we can do more. We can get further. We can make more money. But you have to have a partnership. So one of the things I want to really get clear is that in your dating, even before you get married, and even if you're married right now, it's not too late. You've got, if you right now feel like things are not equal or you're not happy, never too late. Change it up. Let them know you're not happy. Let them know something's got to change. This isn't fair. It's not too late. You've got to be able to make sure you are happy in your relationship too. Latasha says, I like that mapping things out before marriage so there's a mutual understanding. Most definitely. And now we go back to how do you get the man that is crazy about you? Because at this point, all I'm doing is going crazy. So getting a man who's crazy about you, you're not in control of that. That's a God thing. Meeting the man that's going to be absolutely crazy about you and the man you're going to marry, that is a God timing thing. That's something you're not in control of. You can be dating and dating and dating, but until it's time, until you meet that special person, you can't make somebody be that special person. Thank you, Markeisha. You can't make somebody be the special person. You can't make there be chemistry. You can't make yourself love someone. You can't make someone love you. It's either just there or it's not. And it's undeniable when it's there. I mean, it's absolutely undeniable. It's important that we understand that what I'm talking about in a happy marriage in the 21st century is marrying somebody you love. I would not encourage anybody to marry someone that you are not crazy about. You should not even be contemplating marrying somebody if you feel like you've got to tolerate them or if you feel tolerated. If you are not absolutely in love with someone, you're going to hit places in a marriage. You're going to hit hurdles in a marriage. You're going to hit obstacles. You're going to hit tough times that if you're not absolutely in love, you're going to call it quits. It gets that hard. There's going to be crisis. There's going to be situations that are so hard that you're literally going to be like, did I sign up for this? What have I gotten myself into? And that's even when you're in love. Even when you're in love. So imagine if you're not in love. Right. Tamika says, or just because you need help with bills, you don't want to be getting married for financial security. You don't want to be getting married because you're lonely or bored. You don't want to be getting married out of fear because you're getting older. You do not want to be getting married for any reason beyond the fact that you fell in love with someone. He absolutely is crazy about you and loves you too. And you're wanting to build a life together. That is the only time you should be considering marriage in modern times. So a lot of you are worried about marriage. Honey, you ain't got to worry about marriage until you meet somebody you really like. I mean, like crazy about them. Marriage isn't even on the table. I hear women, I'll have clients, they'll meet somebody. Yeah, or because you're pregnant. Absolutely not. That's right. Latasha says, I was not absolutely crazy about the men in either one of my serious relationships. That's part of the reason why it didn't work. 100. Exactly. I'm going to come back up here and see if I can catch another comment. Nicola says, I agree, Rebecca. It works perfectly for me and my husband. We do what works to make each other's schedule easier so we can have time for each other. Exactly. You have to work together. You have to. And part of working together is about liking each other. That's right. You have to choose him too. That's right, Monique. Not because he asked, make sure you choose him too. Don't settle. Do not settle. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. I need you to hear me tonight. If you feel tempted to marry someone because he really likes you or you're getting older, whatever, no, it's better to be alone than to get yourself in a situation where you are not crazy about someone, you're not in love with him. You will be in a world of hurt. It will jack your life up. The person you marry is the biggest decision you'll ever make in your life. And one of the things that I see women do is really take it too lightly. You go, it's kind of like just being emotional and daydreamy and fairy tale-ish about it. And a guy comes along just saying the right things and kind of acting the right way or something, and you're already halfway down the aisle with him in your head. And it's not realistic. It's not realistic. You're going to have to do diligence. You're going to have to vet and qualify him. You're going to have to make sure that you have gotten to know him. Make sure you know what you're signing up for. Marriage is a freaking contract. Contract. And honey, if you got your own money and you've done a lot of work to build a really great life for yourself, you better be thinking about a prenup. Yes, women need prenups too. If you're bringing a lot to the table, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. If you are of any certain maturity and age, if you're not a 20-something, okay, this ain't our first rodeo, y'all. Like, you know that sometimes things don't last. And we've worked too hard. Monique says, if it's not real, it will fade like fake Gucci. Right? Quick. You can watch something fall apart quick. I have literally sat on Facebook this past week. I saw 4 marriages that I had seen come together in the last 2 years. And then I would see the woman or the wife make a post, and it was like, wait a minute, is she still married? Why is she talking like that? Why? Click, 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 click. Where is your husband? 4 people on Facebook just in the past week that all of a sudden I'm putting 2 and 2 together. I'm like, they're not together? And you would have thought when they were getting married 2 years ago or engaged 2 years ago, when you would have, from the pictures and the engagements and the trips and the ring and the, you know, and just the love story, the fairy tale, everything you see on social media when people are sharing their, you know, falling in love and getting engaged. And I'm like, no. And then what's crazy about social media is that literally they'll scrub them from their whole social media account. You would have never even known that this man was married within the last 2 years. Scrubbed. Literally can't find one picture of his wife anywhere. And I'm like, no, I was rooting for you. I thought you were in love. I mean, I'm looking at him like, what did you do? I always tend to think of the man. That's wrong. I'll admit that, girls. I'll admit. I tend to think of the men that it's always their fault. Rashida says, been married twice, not in no rush. Amen, honey. But yes, I always tend to think it's the men's fault. So I always be looking at them like, what did you do? You know what I mean? As a good woman, what did you do? But right, it's like, so people, I mean, and the thing is that it's easy to get caught up because the world we now live in is so image conscious. And so much about photo ops and looking good on Instagram and, you know, and the weddings and I mean, we get it, right? Like, yeah. You see all these people and you're like, oh, goals and relationship goals and oh my God, you know, they're so beautiful together. And so, yeah, that's all great, but just make sure you're not getting caught up in something that is not real. And most people I talk to who come out of something or something ends badly, they will say, Rebecca, there were red flags. There were red flags. My intuition was telling me that I shouldn't do this. There were things there that I was ignoring, minimizing to just keep it moving forward. Lisa says, what actually makes a good marriage? I know God has to be the foundation, but how do you know he's the right one? All right, so this is my experience in having been married and divorced and now married again. I'll be married 3 years come December, Lisa. So this is my personal experience as a grown woman now. I'm 43. I met my husband at 39. So what I can tell you about a happy marriage in 2018 it is comprised of being best friends. Being best friends. That's number one. And this is something I also had to learn in the last 3 years, gals, because I came into this marriage kind of like what I had come into my other marriage, in that I came in trying to be like the perfect wife, right? I came in trying to be some of that traditional gender roles, and then it wasn't working. Kiara says, I was never married, but was on Facebook with pics and happy with a man who turned out to be gay, not real at all. So many red flags. And she's not the first story. I mean, I've had so many clients over the years, girls, that exact same situation, engaged in everything and finding out that, yeah, he was gay. I always tell brides you have to live after the wedding, focus on each other. There you go. Ignored your friends, like I ignored my friends. Yep. Sometimes we get caught up on putting on a show for a wedding and hoping to get cash back as gifts, and really kicks in after the wedding. There's financial issues. Yes, ma'am. Most definitely. So number one, Monique, best friends. Best friends from this perspective. You have to intentionally cultivate your friendship with your partner. That means spending time together. It means intentional conversation. It means intentional transparency and vulnerability. It means sometimes you can't have on the wife hat. You got to take that wife hat off and you got to put best friend hat on. So Carrie will sometimes say to me, and he had to say this to me initially because it would make me kick in a different side of me. He would say, I need to talk to my best friend right now, not my wife. And whenever he would say that, I knew that whatever he had to talk to me about, he needed me to come from a non-judgmental, you know how you can put expectations on someone by the titles that you put on them? I hope I can explain this well, girls, because I need you to hear me. When it comes to being married, sometimes you can be so caught up in husband and wife that your perspective and expectations of that person as a husband and wife, selfish. Tamika, you're hitting the nail on the head. There's an element that comes in to being a husband and wife there's an element of selfishness, because the selfishness is this. It's saying, I'm connected to you. My future, my destiny, my well-being is connected to you. I'm going to need you to be at a certain place and have it together because I'm trying to have it together. So and I'm expecting you to have certain roles and responsibilities that help us as a couple to be reaching these goals and ideals that I have in my mind. God, please help me explain this. I hope that I'm explaining this so someone hears me tonight, because it's really crucial. So you have these ideals and this fantasy of how you see yourself as a married couple and how other people will see you as a married couple. And those pressures and expectations that you put on each other cause you to act a certain way. There you go, Superman and Superwoman mentality. It's really, really hard for men because they feel like there's a lot of pressure on them to be husband, provider, protector, strong, having it all together, having all the answers, not appearing weak, and that's what we expect of a husband. And when you've got your wife hat on, you're looking at your husband saying, what are you talking about? That you don't know what you're going to do, or you don't have it figured out, or you're struggling, or you're hurting, or you're, come on, let's get it together. We got goals. We got marriage goals and relationship goals to reach. We got financial goals to reach. Come on, I need you to get it together. Versus if you put on your best friend hat, there you go. It's too much pressure. Tamika, exactly. It's too much pressure. if you put on your best friend hat, the best friend hat is that he's human. I'm human. We're just two people. We're just two people who love each other, who are trying to be there for each other. I hope this resonates with someone. Because when you come into it with Proverbs 31 and a husband's this and a wife is that, and you're trying to live up to this perfect wifely role, and he's trying to live up to this strong man husband prototype, and in the meantime, you get lost in the sauce. Right? I'm fine, Latasha. I'm thinking about how much I love my husband. It's a whole other level of love when you can love them with their inconsistencies. When you can love someone in their weakness. Exactly, Nicole. Exactly. That marriage and true partnership is about being able to be vulnerable and real, and to be able to be your authentic self, right, wrong, indifferent, weak, strong, up, down. And this is where the type of love that we're all wanting really comes from. Real love. Real love is founded and grounded in acceptance of who this person truly is, even when they're not perfect. They're not perfect. Nobody's going to be perfect, but you love them in spite of. You see all the good in them in spite of. Exactly. Society beats us all up, Tamika. Society beats up men, it beats up women, it beats us all up. And so your partner has to be your safe place. So if there's one thing I could really drill in for you to understand what happy marriage and modern marriage, what a true partnership looks like in 2018 and beyond, it's got to be real. It's got to be real. It's got to be that the two of you are ride or die, come hell or high water, us against the world. Baby, I got you. I know all your secrets. I know your flaws. I know your ups and downs. I know your fears. And I still love you. I still respect you. I still believe in you. Kiara says, I feel like I could understand and do that, but finding a partner that will do the same, ? That's why it's rare. That's why you have to be patient until that true love comes. Because like Kiara just said, she knows she can be that for someone, but can they be that for her? Are they going to be transparent and real and vulnerable and open up and be there for her the way she's being there for them? And that mutual reciprocity, that mutual love and connection, that's the part that's rare, girls. That's the part that you're waiting on to have with that special person. That's right, Tamika. Peanut butter sandwiches for dinner if need be. Yes. See, y'all got me talking about my husband and I start crying. Because the truth is it's not perfect. No relationship is perfect. And what I don't even like to give a lot of marriage advice. I'll give male and female advice and relationship advice, but marriage advice is tricky. Because in all honesty, what works for one couple is not necessarily going to work for another couple, because those people and how they are and what she needs to be for him and what he needs to be for her can be completely different than what Carrie and I need to be for each other. There's too many variables, too much nuance, too many different personality types. Monique says, it hurts when you're that to someone and there's no reciprocity. Exactly. Be patient and wait on who God has for you. Most definitely. It is not worth you signing up to give your all to someone and they're not in it with you. You have got to be in it together. Natasha says, I'm glad I'm hearing this before marriage. No one has ever taught me about relationships. Thank you. You're welcome, honey. No one taught me either. Gals, this is the one thing I want you to understand and get the book, and I need you to read all of this because we can't cover it in complete detail. But one of the things you need to understand is nobody's taught us this stuff. Nobody has, because who would teach us? There's no one to teach us. Our mothers didn't know how to do this. Our grandmothers definitely didn't know how to do this. Your friends they're not experts. They don't know how to navigate this. So it's women like myself who are a little bit older or more experienced or just been through some things, or God gives the gift of knowledge and understanding when it comes to love and marriage and men and dating, that we have to share this knowledge with each other. Because I wish somebody would have taught me these things. I wish someone would have said, baby, don't marry him. I wish that somebody would have said to me about my first two husbands when I was 18 and 21 getting married, like, baby, you're not ready to get married. That this is not it. He's not for you. At 28, I got a dog and made up my mind that I was okay with being single for the rest of my life. 2 months later, I met my husband. Right? Be patient and work on yourself. Yes. So we have to be able to share the knowledge and share the information to be able to learn what to do. And listen, if you're working on you, if you are leveling up and elevating and growing and healing and stretching, don't even worry about dating. Love is going to be a natural progression of where you're at on that abundant life path. If you're not in the divine circle, you need to join the divine circle, get on the abundant life path so I can help you and mentor you and work with you personally. I'm coming back up. Kim says, this is the part my soul misses and weeps for. Oh, Kim, we love you, honey. Kim lost her husband. We love you, Kim, and we know God's going to give you new love, brand new love, because you're on the abundant life path and doing everything necessary to be growing and stretching and going forward into God's will for your life. So we know it's coming for you, honey. My granny said no to both of my serious relationships, but I didn't listen. And listen, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes we need to be listening to those around us. We need to be listening. Kiera says, yes, I can't do it. Growing too much. Exactly. We as women have to be accountable because it isn't always the men. Isn't that the truth? That is so true. So, so true, ladies. A lot of the time it's us. And a lot of the time what God is dealing with us about is we have our own agenda. That's what I recognize in my marriages prior, that God wasn't in. God didn't have nothing to do with it. That was me. That was all me, making choices and trying to put God in the middle of it. And it wasn't God. My marriages weren't God. The first man that God's really connected me with is Carrie Pope. Carrie Pope. I wish he would have been the first man I was marrying. I'd had me about 5 babies. I wish. But, I had an agenda, and I also had been programmed that it was better to marry than to be having sex, that it was, it's better to marry than to burn, that you don't need, and you're not allowed to date. And so, yeah, I was messed up. That's right, Melinda. So the motto for 2019 is God is my matchmaker. Amen. God is the ultimate matchmaker. Ultimate matchmaker. But stop trying to make things happen. That's right. You stop trying to force your agenda on God. Don't force the timing. Don't force relationships. Don't try to manipulate to make things be what you want it to be. Don't ignore your own pain and your own need to heal prior to dating. If you're hurting, don't date. If you're hurting and you know you're hurting, don't date. Chill. Work on you. Seek God. Seek healing. I'll put a link up above for anybody who wants a heart healing consultation that would want to work with me on healing and being ready to be positioned for love and to be positioned for marriage. You can work with me on that. Tamika says, I often cry and get angry that God sent my hubby late, but I know I wasn't ready for him earlier. Amen, honey. Be patient and wait. So modern marriage is about partnership. It's about being best friends. It's about being real, right? These are all necessary things. We need to stop trying to help God do what only God can do. Amen. But waiting also doesn't mean that you can't date. If you feel like you're healthy and you feel like you're in a position that you would love to meet men and start dating, date. Have fun. Doesn't mean having sex, but it does mean you can go on dates and you can meet people. Begin to learn how to date, which is so crucial. I'm going to go into that later in the book as well. That you've got to learn how to date so you don't get taken advantage of, so that you're not out here desperate, that you're not vulnerable to men who prey on vulnerable women. You got to learn how to date, learn how to read men, how to use your discernment. That's right, Charlene. He will come when you're not looking for him and minding your own business, working on yourself. Charlene, ain't that the truth? Charlene went to healing class this year, got all positioned. She met her husband and was married and is now married this year. This year. She was in healing class in February and is now married. Last month, got married. Congratulations, Charlene. We love you. Crucial. Healing is crucial. When in a power session with Charlene, she's in the Divine Circle, we were talking about it, and she's like, she knew that if she didn't do all that healing work earlier this year, she would not be married right now. I can say the same for me. If I had not done all my healing work and gotten intentional and got on my purpose path and really started walking according to what God had for me to do, I wouldn't have been married. I wouldn't be married to Carrie right now. She said, they be counting our coins too, ladies. Yes, they do. They be counting our coins. Don't think for a second that men aren't tallying it up too. Healing class is a class I do in combination with a healing course, Latasha. I'm going to put the link for the Heart Healer consultation up above. You can click on that link and book a consultation as soon as we get done with the video. I'll put that link up there. All right, gals. Listen, our hour is up. I know it goes by so fast. Y'all made me cry thinking about Carrie Pope. You know, you guys know how much I love some Carrie Pope. Love, 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 love that man. I ain't never loved nobody like I love Carrie Pope. God will bring you the greatest love of your life, but a lot of the time you're going to have to get out of the way. You're going to have to get out of the way. That's just real talk. I love you, Charlene. Love you, love you, love you. All right, blessings in abundance, girls. I'm going to put the link up above for the healing course. I do have a dating series that is going to be coming with inside of the Divine Circle. I love you too, Monique. Melinda, you're so crazy. Listen, blessings in abundance. Dating series is coming. I'm going to be releasing this in the next week or two. So that will be inside the Divine Circle. If you really feel like you're ready to date and you want to date, then you're going to want to be in the Divine Circle because I'm going to teach you how to date. So, all right. Love you, love you, love you. Talk to you soon. See you next week for Chapter 3. Chapter 3, get your book up above. There's a link for you to buy the book. Chapter 3, Technology and Social Media. Technology and social media. The effects of technology on social media, on love and dating and relationships. We're going to talk about it. This is going to be a hot topic next week, so make sure you tune in. All right, girls. See you next week for Girl Talk Live. Love you. Blessings in abundance. Bye-bye.